So what we're going to do is we are going to take advantage of the stage select. We were on Act 3 of Labyrinth Zone. I know we were right near the end. We just need to get to the top. There's not even a boss fight with Eggman, with Robotnik. See, here's an interesting thing, actually, that's a good point to bring up. Labyrinth Zone was originally going to be the second zone of the game, which is why it's there. I mean, you figure out why that is. You know what? Give me a minute. I'm not sure whether Spring Yard Zone or Scrap Brain. Not Spring Yard Zone. I'm not sure whether Starlight Zone or Scrap Brain Zone comes after Labyrinth. So give me a minute while I look it up, and I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back, and it's Starlight Zone. Yeah, I was pretty much at the end of Labyrinth Zone anyway. I make no... if I'm gonna die anywhere, Labyrinth Zone is somewhere that you should have no shame in dying in. And I am not ashamed of it, and it's fun. Thank you. So where was I? Talking about Star Wars. Yeah. They reference a Darth Maul short story. No, it's not the short story. It's the Darth Maul novel, Shadow Hunter, I think, which I did kind of enjoy. I thought it was a really solid novel, and they reference it. They don't They're not very explicit with anything, but they reference it. It's like, I know what they're talking about because I actually read that. And it's like, bam, context. You know events that are going on around this time. And I think that's a really cool thing. And it's something the new EU just doesn't have. But we've talked about Star Wars long enough in the Sonic playthrough. Starlight Zone's pretty cool. You know what? I wonder... Oh, no, we can't. I was wondering if the spin dash, since it's not intended for this game, would actually break that and just allow me to go right past it, but nah, it doesn't look like it does. Oh well. Yeah. Back when I was doing commentary, we did a Sonic Generations commentary, and I did bring up the point that a little disappointed. In hindsight, Sonic Generations only took one level from each game. When I think it would have been really cool to maybe take more than one level, because there's so much that they miss that could be really good, like Sonic 1, of course, Green Hill Zone. It's understandable, it's iconic, everybody knows Green Hill Zone, even if you've never played Sonic. Everybody knows Green Hill Zone. But I did bring up the point, there's like, 2 levels per game wouldn't have been bad. Would have expanded the game a little, made it a bit longer without them having to resort to padding it with the challenges. And I did bring up that Starlight Zone would be a really solid zone to bring out to represent Sonic 1 beyond Green Hill Zone. And I stand by that. Starlight Zone's pretty cool. That's a really neat aesthetic. The music's kind of neat. I've got like a classic and modern remix of this in Generations. That'd be really neat. And maybe that's something we'll get into as we go through the series. Other levels that could have been in Sonic Generations. Because like 2 has Chemical Plant Zone and 3 isn't really represented. There's just Sky Sanctuary from Sonic and Knuckles. So we already got this one, so let's just drop out. And like, it would have been kind of cool. Like, a big part of the issue with more modern Sonic games has always been the concern that if you're just having the standard Sonic gameplay, they're going to be really short, which I guess does have some validity, and is generally, I think it's theorized, I don't know if it was ever confirmed, to be the reason why you have stuff like the alternate characters that are required you're required to play as to get the final ending in Sonic Adventure, and why Adventure 2 has the other characters, and why Sonic Heroes requires you to beat it 4 times, once with each team, and why Shadow requires you to beat it 10 times. And, you know, like why Sonic 06 has 3 characters, and that kind of thing. Why Sonic Unleashed has the Hedgehog stages. What a time for that to run out. Oh, there we are. Yeah. Although, you know, there is always the argument, you know, the time they spent... It's like Sonic Unleashed, there's the argument that, you know, yeah, the daytime stages were there with Sonic Team getting Sonic in 3D right for the first time, really. Which, you know, that's down to personal opinion more than anything else, but it was good. The Sonic daytime stages in Unleashed are really fun. And there's the argument I've heard that, like, yeah, the time they spent developing the Hedgehog stages, you know, if they'd have put that into more daytime stages, the game would have been longer, you know, and wouldn't have had the big tedious problem. Because, you know, let's be fair, you talk about Sonic Unleashed, and unless you're specifying the daytime stages, everybody's thinking about the Hedgehog stuff. Was it bad? Not really. More than anything, it was just long. Okay, so this is going to require some timing. Yeah. No, 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 my rings. Yeah, I'm really grown to hate bombs. Oh, we're gonna die here, aren't we? Yep. Oh. Okay, so there's a checkpoint right before the boss, and no way to go back, and no rings. Why does Sonic 1 love to do this? I remember this being a problem in Sonic 2. Like I said, I recently played through Sonic 2 on the collection on Xbox One. It's like, Sonic 2 does this a bunch. And the worst part of it can be when you go through a checkpoint just before a boss. You gonna drop any of these over here? Like, the worst of it can be when you go through a checkpoint just before a boss with 50 rings or more, and you decide you want to get the Chaos Emeralds, because Super Sonic was introduced in Sonic 2. And, you know, it's an understandable thing to want to do. But every time you leave a special stage in Sonic 2, you have no rings. So you do that, and you then have to face the boss with no rings. Which is really irritating. Some of those bosses can be kind of tricky. Did that too soon. I'm doing so well there. Yeah, it's like you shouldn't put them before a boss like this with one shot. No mistakes. Not in a game that requires like this kind of precision. Okay, come on. There we go. Well, at least we didn't get a game over there. And I think we're actually heading towards the, getting pretty close to the end of the game now, which is pretty nice. Scrap Brain Zone. So this is your very typical of the Sonic series. Machinery base. Very typical Sonic industrial machine level near the end. Because, you know, Sonic's always been kind of go through these really standard, cool levels. Right, I want to get out in front of it, okay. Yeah, it's always been your... The levels in general are usually very nature-focused, maybe with some other stuff in there. But the end levels have always been like the... Oh, okay. Like the over-rampant machinery stuff. I think Sonic CD shows it off more in that idea, though. With the bad futures are always like heavily machine-focused, with less wildlife and that. I'm glad that wasn't a bottomless pit, because that would have been a load of crap otherwise. Yeah. Speaking of the Chaos Emeralds, though... Oh, right, it's going to open it, right. Alright. Speaking of the Chaos Emeralds, though... Yeah, I'm glad I landed on that. Generally, when you think of the Chaos Emeralds now, you think Sonic collects 7 Chaos Emeralds, turns into Super Sonic for the final battle with Eggman or Robotnik or whatever. And you have to have the 7 Chaos Emeralds to get to the final level to face Robotnik and finish the game. That actually wasn't a requirement until Sonic 3. Or Sonic and Knuckles, I think. Possibly Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Doomsday Zone. And also, just to be a little bit different, the first game doesn't even have Super Sonic and doesn't have 7 Chaos Emeralds. There's 6 Chaos Emeralds in the first game. Alright, let's continue. I can see myself enjoying this a whole bunch. That's kind of neat, actually. That's a neat effect. Yeah. I never like these caterpillars. I think they're called like caterpillars or something. Never like them because I'm never entirely sure where the hitbox of the spikes on them is. If you hit them in the wrong area, you're going to take damage. I'm never entirely sure where that, where the safe area ends. Might as well make use of modern convenience. Well, might as well make use of invincibility frames. Yeah, there was no way I was getting through. Come on, come on, come on. Yeah, there was no way I was going to get through that without taking any damage. Not the second one, at least. Can't believe I didn't get hit by that one. Seriously? Sonic is horrible with crushy blocks. Really is. Alright, so that was Scrap Brain Act 2. And away we go. I'm not going to apologise for using the stage select feature, because a game like this should have continues. It's like, you know what? Mario Brothers had continues, and it was... what was this, 91? Mario Brothers was like 6 years before this. I hate old games that do that. They're just like, you know, oh, you died, you lost all your lives, game over, get back to the start, and then that's it. I hate games that do that. Or games that have limited continues, I hate that. Because there's no real reason for it, more than anything, it's just a holdover from the arcade days. You know, make the game more difficult for no real reason. Lives themselves are bad enough when you think about it. Yeah, lives themselves are bad enough when you think about it. There's no need for them. Ever since gaming became a home thing, there's no need for it back on the NES, there's no need for it on the Mega Drive, there's no need for it today. But that said, you know, I can somewhat understand the appeal of lives. Our lack of continues is just ridiculous. Almost went the same way there. Okay. You know what? I'm going up. And now down. It's like stuff like some of the games I grew up on, like Batman Returns on Super Nintendo, which I have mentioned before. It's a solid beat 'em up. And it has limited lives, and when you run out of lives you have to use a continue. And it has limited continues. And it's like, why? It's not like there was ever an arcade version of Batman Returns, an arcade beat-em-up version of Batman Returns. You're essentially just trying to replicate the idea of being in the arcade with a limited number of quarters. But there's the thing, we're not in the arcade, we're at home with the time to play this game. And you know what? Sending me right back to the beginning is a surefire way to just get me to turn the game off. Robotic. Ah.